Welcome back. When today's youth can't access the resources needed to succeed, it may lead to challenges in other aspects of their lives. A Boston public school teacher started a program to help students who may be struggling to find positive role models in their lives. Not only does the program introduce them to people they can look up to, it also provides a positive physical outlet to burn off steam. Plus, a citywide group of elected student leaders in Boston come together to identify and address student issues in their district. Some youth face the struggle to stay involved in productive activities. One program has been working to keep them busy, focused, and engaged year-round. Boston Youth Wrestling was founded by a Boston public school teacher looking to develop the city's youth. Jose Valenzuela knew firsthand the effect wrestling can have on a student.
I mean, it changed my life.
Entering middle school, he found himself struggling in the classroom academically, and he had behavior problems as well. His time on the mat inspired him later on to pay it forward and help other youth just like him.
It really taught me the things that I needed to do to change my life and put myself on a trajectory where I could have success in everything I did.
Many students in Boston schools are not exposed to sports until they reach high school. Valenzuela took the opportunity to bring in what he learned as a kid to local schools and students. Fellow coach Daniel McCoy also began wrestling as a Boston public school student and finds wrestling important for Boston youth.
Boston can be challenging sometimes as a youth to find a social activity that's productive for you and your character. And I know from experience that wrestling does both of that.
We, have a track record of success with working with students who have previously been unmotivated in school or had no positive relationships with adults. And I think part of that is just sort of the culture we build.
The goal for coaches like Valenzuela is to commit themselves to every student who steps onto the mat. They can be mediators, offering an alternative physical outlet to students who are often disciplined in the classroom.
Instead of the message getting to a dean of discipline and perhaps the end result being a suspension or some other discipline referral, the coach instead can intervene.
Boston Youth Wrestling provides positive role models that are better able to provide interventions for the students. Those relationships make a bigger impact on the wrestlers and motivates them to work harder.
They take that very seriously when I think if it's just a dean of discipline giving a suspension, perhaps, then students might go home, spend a day out of school, and they learn nothing from that. They don't change their behavior, and they don't feel like an adult cares about them because they were simply written off and sent home for the day.
It seems wrestling alone acts as a major tool helping students.
I always use sports to keep my grades up. It sounds like a weird motivation, but if you really enjoy playing the sport, you would keep your grades up.
Wrestling is a physically aggressive sport that helps build self-discipline and self-motivation among wrestlers of all ages. In cities like Boston, both are essential to success. Urban neighborhoods can be full of distractions. Therefore, young people must learn those skills to stay out of trouble.
When we give kids the tools to deal with their issues in a positive manner, that sort of multiplies itself not just in the team or in the program, but actually in the classroom or in their home life or in anything else that they happen to deal with.
Wrestling, it not only provides a sport, but it provides structure for kids. It provides leaders and mentors that allow them to improve their behavior and character issues.
Student leaders at the Boston Student Advisory Council, or BSAC, have learned to be motivated by confronting issues in their schools. For instance, in 2010, when Boston schools were facing high dropout rates and large achievement gaps, students at BSAC like Nathan Tran Tring noticed some disturbing patterns.
Disproportionate amount of students of color were being disciplined, oftentimes suspended or expelled. And one of our programs was like closing the school to prison pipeline, since a lot of students end up dropping out of high school. Disproportionately, these would be Black and Latino students.
BSAC partnered with the Dignity in Schools campaign to do their annual listening project as part of a national week of action. Recent John D. O'Brien graduate Ayumide Alumuyiwa has been involved with BSAC's project for 3 years.
The listening project is an annual project that we do. We do it at different T stations in Boston, and it's basically catching kids as soon as they're out of school on their way home and basically asking them on how school discipline goes in their school.
Through the listening project, students quickly found that some Boston public schools were not keeping up with the district's standards of discipline. Students were being suspended for nonviolent, non-drug-related offenses. BSAC decided to take action and change the district's code of conduct policies. Senior Savina Tapia feels students' voices are critical to understanding what is happening in their schools.
We're the ones in the classroom, and we're going through this day by day, year by year, and when you make these choices, you don't know how that affects us because you don't sit in the classroom with us.
Staying out of school on suspension does not contribute to education. Instead, it makes students fall behind on their schoolwork.
Kicking students out of school does not help them learn. In early middle school, I was disciplined, and I don't feel I learned anything from the experience. I just treated it mostly as a vacation. All students should share the chance to education, and kicking them out of school is just putting them behind everyone else.
So that's just putting more and more pressure on you in order to keep up, and if you can't keep up, then what are you supposed to do?
By the fall of 2013, their efforts proved successful when the Boston School Committee approved the new Code of Conduct policy. Now it is centered on alternative discipline and diverting the school-to-prison pipeline.
It's like a domino effect, so one small thing, whether it's detention, suspension, push out, especially if it's out of school, that could lead you to doing something, dumb, something reckless.
Today, students cannot be suspended or expelled until alternative solutions are tried and exhausted. Students must also receive intervention and rehabilitative services for drug or alcohol use or possession before any punitive action is considered.
Instead, what they do is they look at, okay, why does the student have that item, what can we do to help them? What can we do to help, ease the situation? That way it doesn't happen again.
Groups like the Boston Student Advisory Council demonstrate the benefits to alternative discipline. They express the importance of getting students involved and informed about policies that directly affect them.
You want to find a way to inform students. These are the rights you have as a student, and, if you feel like someone is violating it, you shouldn't necessarily just take that.
When I got involved with BSAC, I felt I learned a lot more about my school. I felt I was a lot more involved in my school, and I could be more fully involved in my education by being a part of its development.
Joining BSAC was allowing me to change and influence what was happening in my schools and what's going to end up happening for my sister as she moves along through BPS and all my other family members. And so being able to change their education track or things that affect their education means a lot to me.
Now, if you have a child looking to get involved with Boston Youth Wrestling or a high school student who wants to be a part of BSAC, log on to our CityLine website for more details. When we return, 2 Brockton students rallied the troops to make a difference. Stay tuned.